How did food survive a volcanic eruption and then remain preserved for 2,000 years? That's what we're going to cover today on Carbonize This. Now imagine you're a citizen in Pompeii or Herculaneum. You're going about your daily life preparing a meal, and then suddenly Mount Vesuvius erupts. You take off, leaving your food behind. What happens next is a lot of hot gas and ash covers the town, and it created conditions that were just right for preserving this food. We're going to show you how that happened. The Romans ate a lot of fruit, so we have some grapes, pears, apples, and pomegranate. We also have figs and dates. They ate a lot of olives, soft cheeses such as feta, and lentils. They also ate a lot of fish and meat. Here we have a variety of fish called a mullet, which was commonly eaten by Roman citizens. We put the fish in here because they would use baskets like this to transport them to market. They didn't eat a lot of beef, but they ate a lot of pork, duck, and sheep. They also prized organ meat for its nutritional value. So we've included a sheep liver here. Now these baskets are modern baskets that look similar to what the Romans had. But these cups, plates, and spoons are actually replicas of Roman artifacts. They were made by a company called the Roman Shop, based out of Germany. They provided these items for us to see how they would carbonize in our setup. You can find links to these products in the description below and thousands of others on their website. We're going to load this tray in the middle. It's got the olives, grapes, lentils, and then the fruit plate with cheese. This tray has the fruit basket and the kitchen spoon. This is the basket with the fish. And last is the sheep liver. We're going to seal up the back first. And we'll seal up the front. Now this isn't a volcano, but it mimics the conditions found in Herculaneum and Pompeii. When Mount Vesuvius erupted, it sent pyroclastic flows over the surrounding area. That brought a lot of ash along with it. So with that ash and heat, it created a low oxygen environment with temperatures of 400 to 900 degrees Fahrenheit. This setup mimics that. You've got the low oxygen environment with the sealed barrels, and then you've got the wood fire running about 400 to 900 degrees Fahrenheit. What that'll do is heat those items up, drive off their moisture and volatile compounds, and leave just the carbon behind. And that's why the process is called carbonization. All right, it's the next morning, so it's cooled down and we can check everything out. Before I open it, imagine you're an archaeologist digging through 2,000 years of ash and rubble, and you find these items. Would you be able to tell what they were? First, let's take a look at the liver. There's a lot more left of it than I thought there'd be. And it's very glossy. Now, if you were an archaeologist, how in the world would you know what that used to be? Now let's see how much of that fish is left. I mean, it's full of protein, but it also had the bones. Whoa, very light. Oh my goodness, look at that. You can certainly tell that was a fish. All right, let's open the back of the retort. So it looks like the pomegranate actually burst open and then covered the basket with the seeds. That looks really cool. The pears look like little perfect carbonized pears. It's got a little weight to it. The skin bubbled up. I'm wondering, this has enough weight to it. I'm thinking the pears may not be carbonized completely. The spoon looks really cool. It's got kind of a silver sheen to it, but I see a crack right here at the base of it. Now, archaeologists digging through all of this would have had to been very careful not to break what would have been an intact spoon. Oh, wow. Look at what happened to the lentils. So they kind of popped and split open and spilled out over here, kind of like popcorn. The plate and the cups all turned out really nice. I mean, they've obviously got some charring on them, but they look really good. None of them cracked. You've got grapes in this one and a little cluster hanging over here. And then you've got the olives in that one. So what I'm guessing happened here is the juice from the grapes dripped down here and carbonized, and then it smoked and covered the mug with soot. Now, when archaeologists find items like this, they can't just break them open to see what they look like, but we can, because these are just reproductions. We'll break them open so you can see what's inside. We've got our liver here, and as we expected, it being primarily protein, it is oozed and kind of formed this glossy material, and it's lost its structure completely. Well, look at that. That's the bottom. The liver did exactly what we would expect with an item that's high in protein. But with our plant-based items, they maintain their structure. In fact, you can look at these grapes, and they still look like grapes. And we were wondering about the grapes. Would they turn into little raisins? Would they just burst and ooze everywhere? But it looks like they carbonized really well. You can see a little bit of the juice in the sugar that dripped out there and then carbonized. And then you can even see the vines on the clusters. I'll break these off, see if I can break it in half. Actually, they're pretty tough. There we go, the inside of a grape. Actually, you can make out the structure of a grape. They're segmented fruit, and you can see those segments. And then we can even just smash them. They're very hard. Now those grapes are pretty tough, but it looks like these pear slices are really fragile and light. So let's take a look at these. Yeah, I mean, they maintained their structure, but there's just not a lot of carbon in them compared to the grapes. Now they stuck together, likely because of the sugar, and they just fused, but they're very light. Let's see if we can break them apart. Oh, yeah, we actually were. Well, it broke off a little bit, but pretty clean break. All right, and we'll crush these up as well. So we've got a dried fig right here, and then we've got one of the original dates. So with the figs, they're very similar. I mean, it's just shrunk a little bit and turned black. Figs were commonly eaten in the Roman Empire, and in fact, they carbonized so well, they found a lot of carbonized figs. I mean, entire jars worth of them. Now with these dates, you can see that they changed quite a bit. They're smaller, but they're more plump. I'm gonna take this and see if we can break it up. Oh, that is so hard. There is no way. Whoa. Okay, didn't mean to do that. But it carbonized completely and it's very porous. Now for the date, I have been able to break these apart before. Let's see. It's definitely lighter. It's not as dense as the fig. No, I can get the skin off, but that is tough. I really want to show you a cross section of this, so I'm gonna see if I can saw it in half. Oh yeah, that worked great. That's the little pit on the date. In fact, it's loose. There it is. I wanted to make sure you could see this, so I brought it in the sunlight, but you can actually get the pit out of there. So there's a carbonized date. Now that works so well, let me try it on this fig. There's the fig. Got a little bit of that yellow paint on there, but you can see the seeds, the fig seeds in there. Here are a few other things on the plate. This is the pomegranate slice that we had, and it really didn't maintain its shape, but you can still see the arils, which contain the seeds here on the edges. It's very light and fragile. That's the outer part of the pomegranate. So it basically kind of just flattened out and then carbonized. So we'll snap this one in half. Check it out. You can see the layers of the pomegranate. There's the outer layer, and then the flesh and the arils. So here is the feta cheese that we carbonized. Now, a lot of high protein items just kind of melt away. But we notice with milk-based foods, they tend to hold their structure a little bit better, and that might be because of the milk solids inside of it. Now here are some lentils, but we didn't put them on the plate. We think they popped out from the cup of lentils that was sitting nearby. And you can see a lot of these are split open and puffed up. They kind of acted like popcorn. So we'll dump those out on the table. Oh, there's a big old chunk. I wonder if it didn't get carbonized, but came out nice and clean. They have found a lot of lentils in the ruins of Pompeii, which makes sense. Look at how well formed they are still. You can tell that those are lentils. Let's see how fragile they are. Oh, they're not. They're actually pretty tough. No wonder they survived 2,000 years. This is the mug that went through the carbonization process, and this is the one that didn't. Let's look for some differences. You can see a slight color change, and that's about it. It definitely withstood the high temperatures, which makes sense because they're made in a kiln. This is a gladiator cup. You can see scenes of the gladiators on the side. Now, as for the olives inside, they did not survive so well. So here's a better look at the olives in the sun. Let's see if we can get one out. Here's one. I'm gonna squeeze it and see if I can break it. Oh yeah, it's very brittle compared to the other items. But there's the pit. So just like you would expect an olive, a little softer on the outside and very hard on the inside. So I know that these are olives because we produced them, but imagine being a archaeologist and finding them for the first time. What do you think that would be? I mean, it makes sense that it could be olives. The Roman citizens ate a lot of them, but maybe you wouldn't know until you found other items to compare them to or broke them open. Let's dump the grapes out beside them so we can check out this cup. Oh, there's some of the grape juice and the sugar that was in it that carbonized. Oh, look, it came. Oh, look at that. That is so cool. Oh, I wish I could like preserve that and make it a little tabletop decoration. So that is the juice that flowed out of the grapes, and the sugar that's in it just carbonized into one solid mass in the bottom. Look at that. So here is one of the gladiator mugs. Look at how the design turned out after we carbonized it. That looks pretty cool. So there's kind of a band right here where it's really dark compared to the bottom and the top. Not sure why that is. Maybe because there's more texture there for the smoke or soot to cling to. And then you can see where the grape juice ran off the sides. Now these are the spoons that the Roman shop gave us. This is a cooking spoon used to stir a large pot. And then this was an eating spoon. And you can see for both of these, they shrunk quite a bit. Look at the size difference here. It is quite a bit smaller. I mean, almost a full inch at least, and is definitely narrower. Look at the differences here, and then the main part of the spoon as well. And here's the eating spoon, and it shrunk a lot as well. Look at the length, maybe 5/8 of an inch shorter. And of course, the main part of the spoon is significantly smaller. Our last two trays are the fish and the fruit, and we're gonna check out the fruit first. So we cut these in half to give you a nice cross section of the apple and the pear. And you can tell it's an apple and a pear. Turned out great. Very, very light. A little bit of the basket attached to the bottom. Let's see if we can grab this whole pear. It's kind of stuck to the pomegranate. There we go. We've got our whole pear. Let's grab these. So we have a red pear, a green pear, and then another green pear that was cut in half, and then these apples. So here's the apple. So here's the whole apple. There's an apple seed. Here's that whole pear and how it snaps, and you can actually see a little bit of coloration on the inside. So it's not as high of a percentage of carbon there on the inside as the outside. Yeah, look, in fact, I can smell it. So not completely carbonized, but really close. Makes me worried about the fish now. Now let's try this larger pear. Oh yeah, look at that. Okay, really getting worried about the fish now. Look at that. Now this didn't carbonize completely, but I would imagine the items in Pompeii and Herculaneum did. I mean, it was an event that lasted over several days versus just a one-time heating like we did. Now here's the pomegranate, and it obviously ruptured, and you can see all the little arrows here. Let's see if we can pull it out of the basket, but it is fused to the basket. We'll break it open as well. And that is completely carbonized. That's a little easier to open than a fresh pomegranate. Don't know if I'd eat it though. And here's our basket, and we'll break a couple pieces. And then we'll just crush it. Last but not least, we've got the fish. Now, I bet he's still carbonized completely because he's so light. But before I try to pull them out, let's just look at some of the detail. The scales obviously stayed intact. And then his skull and bones look like they stayed intact. Of course, all the soft parts of his body looked like they melted and just oozed away, which we expect. That's just like how the liver looked. All right, do you think I can get this fish out of the basket? It's going to be tough. I think the tail's going to break off. It does not smell like fish. No, it is fused. Oh, it's hollow. It's hollow. Look, oh, breaking the basket. It's hollow on the inside. I mean, that just shows you how hard archaeology is. Because if you're digging through the ash, look how fragile stuff is. I mean, it could just break before you even get to it, know what it is. So look, you can even see some of the structure here on the fins, the bony structure here and here, and how different it looks from the scales. Let me see if I can get the skull out. I'm going to fold this back a little bit. Oh, there's the bones right there. You see them? These little like hair-like threads. Those are the fish bones, and those are mostly calcium. Let's see if we can get the head out. We've got fish head charcoal, and then there's its tail. So today we learned a little bit more about the food that was carbonized by Mount Vesuvius. And a big thank you to the Roman shop for providing these replica artifacts and more for our Pompeii series. They're all about making history tangible, and they certainly did that for us today. They have thousands of products just like these on their website, so be sure and check them out.